This is the Bread Pilled Witch, and in this video by Bread Pilled Ministries, it's going to be a video on, what's the video going to be on again? Oh yeah, it's going to be a sermon, and I'm also going to mirror it on my main channel, so in case anyone would be interested, and it's going to be an Easter sermon. Now, I could see a lot of things for Easter, but, you know, a lot of people in America, whether we believe in Christianity now, our culture is still Christian. We still say things like Bible stuff like a house divided cannot stand, and other religious stuff, all the time, in idioms and expressions and metaphors, and we still live in it, and most Americans are still Christian identified. With that being said, whether or not Jesus actually existed or not is not the point. The point is not the exoteric. The point is the esoteric. You see, both religious fundamentalists and materialist anti-theistic atheists have it wrong. The point of, and I'm going to start off with this premise. The point of those, what the points of those myths are not necessarily to just explain things, although it mystifies it. It's also about ourselves, basically. And for example, the resurrection of Christ or reincarnation, it symbolizes we die, like we die every moment and get reborn, basically. Like you die when you fall in love and you get reborn. You know, the hence born again Christian. And so there's like the chalice, which is, you know, became a holy bath. All sorts of spiritual traditions have a chalice. But a chalice is basically a glorified mythic object, cup that was useful because it was necessary to carry people water into survival. So when water containers were invented, it was a blessing. But over time, it became more and more mysticized, as you will. And you gotta read Esoteric, or not. You can always read Gustav Jung. I'm forever young with a J. He's a psychoanalyst, and the point of this is that Jesus is not, of course, not the only person. Or Yeshua, preferably be called. It's not the only person, the person or legend about a person dying and getting reborn, or a virgin, as there are other been gods and goddesses before him who have done the same thing. But Jesus is the archetype, but he's something special about this version of the archetype. You see, Jesus was a communist anarchist. And he was a rebel. He was a revolutionary. He was also a mystic and a magician. He did say, turn the other cheek, or at least allegedly, or thought to have said that. But in those days in Rome, turn the other cheek does not mean what it means today. Turn the other cheek in Roman times, around Jesus' time, would have been a gesture of, I am your equal. Why are you treating like that? It's a stance of is asserting your equality, you know. But of course, not a lot of people know that. And of course, parts of the Bible, especially the Paul shit or in Revelations, are not actually, because people bring up Romans chapter 13 for to discredit Jesus Christian anarchism. I'm not Christian, but I am a follower of the Christ of the Christ spirit, or Christos. But the point is, I lost my train of thought, but point is, it is also symbolic because it's, of course, appropriated from pagan holidays like Ostara. But the point of it is, because think about it this way, an old woman in the winter time, her friends, her family, her neighbors are quitting and they're dropping out, and she stand there, and it takes faith, and not like the misunderstood atheist, anti-theist version of faith is believing without evidence, or whatever. I forgot how they determine the exact definition, and that's embarrassing because I used to be one. But being faithful is persistent. It's something more to that meaning. But while other people who are equally talented and equally skillful or more have dropped out and given up on themselves, by the time spring comes, that old woman, the crone, hasn't given up. And she takes the blessing of not giving up to have faith in tomorrow. And that's the point. Easter is the day we celebrate life. Also a star, but I mean, Jesus, whether he exists or not, beside the point. Same thing with Lao Tzu. Jesus, Lao Tzu, and Buddha, the three noble sages, all have anarchistic tendencies. Jesus taught us about the basics of morality, and his esoteric teachings that can be interpreted as a way to reach gnosis. One way. Buddha represents the way, how to transcend your inner illusionary self and to become your uniqueness part. And in Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu talked about the way. Lao Tzu and Buddha. Lao Tzu left his prestigious government job and left the country. Buddha left his princehood, ironically like Kropotkin. And Jesus was supposedly thought to be a descendant of one of the kings of Judea before he, of course, a lot of history happened, but thought of. But also thought to be a virgin, which is kind of contradictory. But in essence, I believe Goddess is with us. You see, Yeshua represents not only the rebirth, the rising from the dead, an archetype. He's also the liberatory aspect of that archetype. And those archetypes are how Goddess has allowed us to connect with her. The Great Mother, the Star Goddess, the Creatress, who's responsible for everything one way or another, or rather, gave birth to everything we know, gave us free will. And of course that sounds Christian, but let's hear me out. Now, of course, a lot of people rightfully point out, well, hold on, if we have free will in this prophecy, how is there free will? And here's the point. Process theology. You gotta read up in your process theology, and it also explains the problem of evil, because she, the goddess, or Sophia as I shall call her, she's both good. No, she is both eternal, yet she's both temporary. I forgot what I was going to say, but both eternal and temporal. She is both us and not us, within, without. And process theology, instead of having a Calvinist idea of, it was started by Whitefield, the philosophy, but it became a theology. But it was the exact opposite of Calvinism, because Calvinism basically puts us, the world, in the groove. How even a lot of earlier Christian philosophers imagine as like a record player, and God plays it, and he tells people what's going to happen, but because he's outside, he is perfectly good. The process theologians will tell you God is not, we're not in a record. It's more of a jazz ensemble. We are co-creative. And in other words, we co-create with her. She is us. We are part of her. And we are some of us. Some of hers. And another topic, you see, us leftists or anti-authoritarian leftists and anarchists often get depressed about how we're losing. But like the morning stars, where the name Lucifer comes from, incidentally, Jesus was also called the morning star, interesting point, has symbolizes or the spring, and we're spring right now. Justice, no matter how hard you try to crush it, liberty, freedom, it will come back. The eternal spiral is continuing on and on. The world is fluid, and so in essence, to basically say, all men, or not just men, all sentient beings, all have this, have been blessed, or have born right to be free. And if we're all equal under the eyes of the Sophia, then none of us are qualified to govern another. The state is just a sinful form of idolatry. And in the spirit of dinomia, I will conclude with basically, what I was going to end is basically, let me add some more. And for even Richard Wolff has, I say we're in springtime, and let me explain. Even Richard Wolff released, there was an article about him, how Richard Wolff, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even during the height of the arrogance of capital during the end of history phase, people thought neoliberal capitalism would be forever. But it turns out it was sowing the seeds of its own destruction. And the seeds of class struggle is with us. And it's been sparking up. Life, the life of spirit, has sprouted up among the terrible snows of capital. And soon it will be displaced and destroyed. And I got hope, because there's the Brazil strike this year and last year. There was, heck, even in this year, West Virginia, a red state, if I'm not mistaken, had a teacher strike. It was the longest wildcat strike in human history. It broke the record. And then of course, the teachers of Oklahoma threatened a strike, and then they basically got what they want. Basically, class consciousness is back. Christ consciousness is back. Christ consciousness. And anarchos is rising again. We live in a golden age. In the conclusion, we live in a golden age of liberty, of anarchism, of basically, no other time in history has it been, or at least in the West, has it been easier to gain gnosis and achieve a mindset called anarchos, which is just known for being free from all this hierarchical conditioning of the archons. We have the chance to finally break the spell of the archons. And unlike Gnostics, I think the earth is sacred and nature, but we have the chance. We have the opportunity. Like spring is the opportunity to plant seeds. We are in the opportunity to plant the seeds of not just resistance, but the resistance will give fruit to the fruit of liberty, equality, and solidarity. And that's my conclusion. This is the bread-pilled anarchist, also called the vegan anarchist. It's not no gods, no masters. It's all gods, no masters. See ya!